And we're back.
And we're back.
Today is an ultra special episode because we are kicking off the one and only Women's History Month. Maybe our favorite month.
Definitely our favorite month, for sure.
And what a better way to kick it off, Lo, than kind of not, doing a new episode talking about a new thing, but maybe kind of going back to all of the awesome women interviews, insights, tips, tools that we've learned from some really incredible women over the past 2 years. Can you believe it's already been almost 2 years?
I really can't. It's kind of crazy, but we truly have had some incredible conversations and been able to talk with some amazing people. So let's kick it back. I'm excited.
Let's kick it back. Let's get started. All right. Up first in the episode is our conversation with Michelle Whaler. Lo, this was one of our favorite conversations.
I know. She's so sweet. I truly adore her. She is an incredible human, first of all. And second of all, she has such humility and so much grace and just so much wisdom packed in her. She's gone through so much, but the way she approaches it all is so very she has this calming energy to her.
Absolutely. The thing that really struck me the most with Michelle was whenever she was kind of the poster child for a slow start, definitely not an overnight success, although a lot of people may have thought that, but it took her 16 years before really Beyond Yoga was, in the conversations like it is today. And I think having that kind of background and having that kind of resilience speaks volumes to who Michelle is, and just a really big fan of her. So check out a clip from our interview with Michelle as we kick off this episode.
I knew that Beyond Yoga had the legs to be something far greater than I had ever imagined. When, we started with Beyond Yoga, I could see how this was going to be for all people. And, we started off with women, but I knew down the road we would eventually expand, to everybody. And it was, the idea from the beginning was it was for all shapes and sizes. And, we started off with extra extra small through extra large. And then, we ended up going XXS through 4X. And, I knew that it had so much potential. Just the idea of dressing comfortably and helping women feel good about themselves and having clothing that's going to make you feel good about yourself before you go to work out. It's already a hurdle to get yourself to go work out. But if you can make yourself feel good before that, you don't have to feel like you have to exercise to get into your exercise clothing.
Yeah.
I knew this was going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Fabrics. And we just had so much passion around it. So I don't know. It just clicked, and there really wasn't a whole lot of doubt in my mind. And people keep saying oh, it's an overnight success, and I'm like, let me tell you, this is not overnight. I've been doing this for so long, but people didn't know who we were in the beginning, and it took all of this time to build the momentum and build the brand and to get the product where we needed it to be. And I'm so proud of what it is today, and all of the steps along the way, but it definitely wasn't an overnight success.
Yeah, you're the decades in the making, actually. It's more like it. But it sounds like it was truly a mixture of passion and this real gap that you were seeing in the industry. And now, obviously, seeing that you guys were part of that kind of revolution of really changing the beauty industry and just the industry in general, I think, of overall, like you said, of not retouching, of accepting all bodies, of making people feel like everyone is beautiful because they should feel like that. And I think that time especially, it was that Victoria's Secret era where you thought you had to be tiny and have a 6-pack and fit into the tiny XL to feel good about yourself. And it truly took, I think, leaders like you guys of really stepping up and changing that. I think you shared a lot of great kind of tidbits on kind of some of the strategies you've used of going through the whole process of growing a business over multiple decades. I mean, that's no small feat at all. And you touched on it a little bit, but I would love to kind of go into more of what happened after that. We want to know okay, you started it, you grew it, you scaled it. And then you sold it. Like, we want to get into the big sell. Like, what was that like?
So it was in 2020 around Thanksgiving. I got a message on LinkedIn from LS and Co, which is Levi Strauss and Co. So I don't usually read all of my LinkedIn messages. I certainly don't respond to most of them. But I saw this one come through, and they said that they were interested in a conversation, and it was something about a brand collaboration. I was like, how amazing would that be? Like,
Yeah.
Levi's is this iconic brand, and how
So
fantastic. So I ended up taking the phone call, and it turned out, I had a great conversation with the first person, Lauren. And then she was like, oh, I want to introduce you to our CFO. And I was like, interesting. Okay. And then I had a great conversation with him. And then I started meeting all the people from the executive leadership team. And I kept having really fantastic conversations with all of them. And they said, we're debating whether we should do a collaboration or whether we should, you know, just get into active on our own. And we're thinking, should we buy or should we build? And that's kind of the big question. And
mm,
I wasn't trying to pitch them on selling us or buying us, because I actually really wasn't interested in selling our company. But I recommended that they buy, because I was like, I have seen so many brands decide that they are going to go into active over the years, and it just it's a lot harder than people think.
it's a tough
And
category. Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
a very tough category, and it's very saturated, and like
Totally. Yeah.
nobody wants to buy a legging that's, just, XYZ conglomerates, whatever. They
Right.
like the fact that this was a female founded company, that we are obsessed with fit. And, we spent more time than anyone, like, perfecting all of these things, searching for the right fabrics, like designing with all different body types in mind. And like, we've built this relationship over, at that point, 16 years with the customer. They knew us from so many different touch points, and we've been with them through, their journey. So I was like, you should probably look into buying. I think that they really liked what we had built, and they said they were interested in acquiring us. And and I feel really good about it, though, because Levi's is an incredible company. They have great brand principles. They really believe in, principles over profits, which is so much about how we ran Beyond Yoga. So I felt like I was, partnering with somebody who was great, knowing that they were 170 years old. I knew that this would really solidify the legacy of, what Jody and Jesse and I had built. And I wanted it to live beyond us. I didn't want to sell, and I probably wouldn't have sold to anyone else. But because it was Levi's, because they were so cool, because I believe so much in their principles, and because of I knew what it would do for my team, that's why. And we negotiated the right price.
Yeah.
Um, I feel really good about that decision. They got an amazing asset, and I feel like I set Beyond Yoga up for a incredibly long runway with a fantastic group of people. So
All right, that was so good. But you'll have to check out this next interview as well. It is definitely one of Lo and I's favorites.
I started working on OSEA when I was 16. Um,
Wow.
so we've been doing it for decades now. And it all really started, my mom created the idea and concept of OSEA. And growing up, we really did grow up with bathtubs full of seaweed, a kitchen full of essential oils. My mom had run a wellness center in the 80s and was looking for natural, clean products that were aligned with the kinds of food she wanted to eat. She, so, because her thought, which was radical at the time, which is what we put on our body is similar to what we put in our body, um, she couldn't find anything, started making her own formulas, and that was really the birth of OSEA. And I got to grow up alongside OSEA. So in the mid 90s, when my mom finally had her formulas perfected, it was just kind of part of our household and part of our family. And I was the oldest. had always been really entrepreneurial, mostly by necessity because if we wanted something, we had to find a creative way to make money. I decided to jump in and start helping. So I have been working on OSEA the majority of my life. So it's pretty crazy. I think something that drives and inspires me and is so connected to the ethos of the brand and everything we do, which is the multi-generational wisdom of women. And the brand was really inspired by my great grandmother, who was the first woman to go to chiropractic school. She started a polar bear club in the 1930s where she swam in the ocean on the East Coast in this like very different weather than we have in California, close to 300 days a year.
Wow.
And so much of the brand is inspired by her wisdom, which was then passed on. I think that back then, I mean, we really just didn't have access to the tools that we have now. Gosh, if we had TikTok in the 90s and um it was the landscape with clean beauty, our approach would have been so different, which is also so applicable to consider with anyone who's building a business of like looking
Yeah.
at the long term and the near term and how you talk about things. We were really limited in our marketing tools. Most of it was like in-person education my mom and I did. So we spent a lot of time focusing on our philosophy and our mission, and we really focused on education. It was a totally novel concept that the skin is the largest organ in our body. And it was like maybe in like the early 2000s when the birth control patch came out. And I was so excited because that was like a moment where we could communicate how things are topically absorbed into your skin. So we focused a lot on education. We were also really involved in legislation and regulatory work. I think now what I really emphasize in the branding and marketing is the the fact that, clean is, you could almost say, table stakes now. I really strive to make it clear that that's actually our reason for existing. We didn't jump on the clean beauty wagon. We were here long before it started, and we hope, obviously, as a concept and a standard, it never shifts. But if it were to change, we're not going anywhere. And so by continuing to talk about our mission in an unchanging, totally consistent way, I think it speaks very loudly to our consumer, to someone who's
Mm,
aligned with our values.
yeah,
We're not
absolutely.
for everyone, and that's, like, something we've always wanted to say, like, that's not a value that everyone shares, in terms of their lifestyle choices with food or products. So, I think that's something that's always been important to understand, like, you just can't be for everyone.
All right, next let's kick it back to one of our favorite conversations with Anushka from Nanit.
She is one of our top episodes, and she was just a powerful CEO. I think she had a lot of great insights when it comes to the world of business and how to build really strong teams. I mean, she came from Rent the Runway, and then now is at Nanit, running one of the top companies for parenting and for parent technology. It's fascinating.
It really is. I feel like she was able to give a lot of great like insights and tips on both sides, both like the strategy and the background of kind of what's going on behind the curtain, as well as kind of the forefront of as being a founder and what that looks like.
As you were kind of, with Rent the Runway and you were really seeing them grow pretty rapidly, what were some of the key things and key decisions that you think that y'all did as a team that really helped propel that forward?
Oh my gosh, so many things. I think, and I'll probably reflect more broadly on my experience at the
Mhm.
company, and I'll connect that to where, to my experience at Nanit so far. But one of the things I think we did really, really well there was listen to the customer. All of our innovations were very much driven by insights that we got. And it wasn't even always in the most crazy way that we got these insights. Sometimes it would be our customer service team being on the phone with people and hearing them call in time and again about how, they had this amazing experience and they would email us the photo. This was like in 2010 and 2011. Like they would email us the pictures of themselves in the dress or the event. And like that sparked this idea that, hey, we should build photo reviews onto the site. We were one of the first people out there in the e-commerce world that built it, right? Our subscription business that was built in 2016, that was really hearing from customers that they actually wanted to be able to use it for work, but we didn't really have quite the inventory. And we had these 4-day rentals that didn't quite work. So they were like hacking it for, getting dressed for work. And so then we really built this subscription program, which was really built around work. So I think the listening to the customer, which sounds so obvious, but a lot of companies don't have the structures in place to do it. And at Nanit, very much the same. We have some cool systems in place for all the founders out there. We have a Slack channel where all our app reviews come into it and all of our CSAT responses come into it. And so you really it's like eating your own dog food. You got to read all the good, all the bad, all the ugly, and do something about it,
Yeah.
listen to the customers.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's such a process to go through, right? As you kind of navigate that. So as you kind of went through the 4 years and then transitioned, I want to kind of talk through the next step of where you went to after. We're excited to kind of dive into that part.
Yeah. I decided that I had kind of touched a lot of parts of the company and was interested in trying something a little bigger scale to just like sort of double check, do I really love this early stage? Do I want to maybe try going back to a bigger scale company? And so I went to Hudson's Bay, which was a pretty big e-commerce business that I was going to oversee in the US and Canada. And so it was a global role, and that was exciting. And had a really good experience there. I think it was very valuable in my career to sort of toggle between startup, larger company, and get an understanding of what stage I really love. And so I had a really nice experience there. I learned a lot. It was a much, much bigger company. They acquired Saks Fifth Avenue soon into when I was there. And so we were integrating the digital businesses. I quickly kind of saw that it was not that size was not what I was looking for, especially kind of post integration with another large company. And I'd say within 18 months, I was like, okay, maybe I'm ready to go back to a smaller, something a little bit smaller. And then I went to a really early stage startup as employee number one. That was too early. That was too early. That was also amazing. And that company is doing really cool things. It's called Resonance. But I think like I had a good couple of years there where I checked myself on like, what do I really enjoy and where do I add the most value to a business? And I decided that it's like a startup a little later stage. And so I went back to Rent the Runway in 2017. And the company had grown since I had been gone and scaled and raised more money. And it was actually like Goldilocks. I had found like the perfect right size at that
Yeah. As you were growing your roles there and you were really kind of building that and pivoting and having to maybe kind of feel like you were building something from scratch again that was new and fresh, going into your next, big move from there, did you see yourself at that moment staying at Rent the Runway forever? Like you were like, I will retire here. Or did you have other sights on maybe what would be your next interest, or where is
Well,
this kind
to
of come
that,
into play?
yeah, to that whole, thing that I mentioned before around like what's the right size of company where you like are both happiest and feel like you're contributing the most. I kind of knew that a public company was probably not going to be that for me, but I had such love for the business that I wanted to be there through that important milestone and help support the business for a period of time. But I always knew that I was going to want to come back to something earlier stage. And so it just the timing was right. Earlier this year, I left and joined Nanit as CEO, and it's been so amazing. It's an awesome business. It's exactly the size that I love, and it's allowed me to come in and sort of think about all the skills that I've gotten through all the experiences that I've been lucky to have up until now, and which of those things that I've learned are really applicable and awesome in a business like Nanit, and which ones we have to do it differently, and that doesn't make sense. And so it's been really interesting to sort of draw on all of the experience that I've had so far and bring along the things that are great.
Yeah, absolutely. Having kind of like all sides of the business, it sounds like being able to kind of have experience going through each part. I love it. So can you break down for us what is Nanit? We want to know. Tell us everything.
Yeah, Nanit is this amazing business that was founded by two dads. It's probably my favorite part of the story, actually, because you talk about any kind of parenting product or early childhood product, and it's usually founded by moms. But this was founded by two dads who were kind of building computer vision monitoring systems for silicon wafer manufacturing. I know this sounds insane, but they were literally monitoring like manufacturing processes. And then they had
Uh,
kids, and they were like, we are doing the night shift and we need to figure out how to monitor these babies so that we can get some sleep, right? And
yeah.
so they kind of set their mission was to sort of hack baby sleep with this smart baby monitor. And so 10 years later, we were the number one smart baby monitor last year. And really, it's much more than that. We're a parenting platform. So it's an app-based product, and we deliver kind of the amazingness of I don't know if anyone here is like an Aura Ring user. I'm an avid Aura Ring user. I love the sleep insights that I get. We deliver those types of insights for babies and children. And so what we found is that parents actually are the biggest ones that benefit because our parents sleep 10% longer when they use Nanit, which is what it's all about. Like the whole world is all about understanding that sleep matters a lot now. And so it's this incredible product where we do everything from growth tracking, breathing tracking, sleeping monitoring. And it really is a tool that helps parents kind of feel more in control, feel connected. And also, they can be at dinner and have a babysitter and still be able to feel connected, right?
Yeah.
And we see that that's a really important thing for our parents because it's not, our parents are like the people that want to do everything, right? They're like the pro parents. And so they want to have that sort of tool to help lessen the anxiety.
All right, now let's kick it back to one of our convos with Shira from Nightcap. She had
Yeah.
a very interesting product, and honestly, she was a hustler. I really appreciated our conversation with her.
I know, me too. I mean, she was a young and scrappy founder
Yeah.
that is still scrappy to this day. And the thing that stands out from her interview and the conversation that we had with her is that she just made it happen. Anything
Yeah.
she wanted to happen, she made happen. She kind of brought the opportunities to her. She didn't wait for them to come to her. And I think that's shown with her success. Plus, she was on Shark Tank, which
Yeah.
I mean, I love.
Definitely. And I feel like she really created a solution out of a true problem she was seeing. She saw, all of the things that were going wrong in bars where there were a lot of people slipping drugs into drinks. So
Yeah.
creating a scrunchie that also could cover up your drink, genius. I mean, genius.
So smart.
Nightcap originated as a scrunchie that also turns into a drink cover, so you can stay protected when you're at the bar, music festival, party. Um, since then, we have increased our product line, so we have different kinds of things to keep you safe no matter who you are and what you're drinking. So we've got beer bottle tops, can covers for your seltzers, bachelorette boxes, all of the fun things. So it's really just like a fun solution to a serious problem, is what we like to call it. And I thought of the original idea of the scrunchie after a friend of mine was roofied at the bar, and I went to bed one night, thought of the idea in a dream when I was sleeping. I was like, this is a really good idea. And I was 16 at the time, so I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was like, this has a lot of potential and I know it could save lives because there's nothing else out there. And that morning, I just sat down with my dad and created the first prototype out of my mom's stockings and a scrunchie from my room.
Wow.
Wow.
That's so incredible. I mean, whenever I saw that you were 16 whenever you had conceptualized this, I mean, one, there are two things running through my brain. I'm like, wow, that's incredible. At 16, I don't even want to tell you what I was doing. Probably a bunch of things that were up to no good. And the other thing is, wow, 16, she had a friend that had an experience like this. And at that age, I did too. And I didn't think of, coming up with a solution for this. And so powerful that you were able to do that at 16 years old, to say, this is a big problem, and I don't want to see this happen again.
It was something that you really saw happen and were able to productively shift into solution-based thinking. And so going from, okay, I have this idea and this download, let me like cut up some pantyhose and put together a little prototype of what's coming through in my mind. How did you go from that to into production and turning it into a business?
Yeah, so especially, you know, at 16, you really have I mean, doesn't matter how old you are, like when you're starting your first business, you're not like supposed to know what's going on. So I would give myself a lot more credit if I knew that back then. But you know, I made that prototype with literally, like, think of it as like socks. It was just like very weird, and I was just trying to show everyone around me what I was visualizing. I have learned a lot about the problem when running this business because, you know, I talk about it all the time. People share their stories with me, and every single time my jaw is on the floor. I'm like, there's no way that happened to you. Like, you know, people taking their friend's drink on accident, and then, you know, they're the one on the floor, or like they're the one in the situation, or it's crazy. Like, you would be so shocked at the amount of people too who don't think it exists. You know, it is a huge problem. We don't talk about it enough, and I think the product and business itself is a conversation starter.
At what point did you know that you needed investment? And at what point was it that you went on Shark Tank?
Yeah, so we went on Shark Tank like very early on in the business, which was so awesome because we got to, you know, any product that goes on Shark Tank immediately establishes credibility. And, you know, I was on Shark Tank. Oh, okay, so you're legitimate.
Well, I think it's either a really good thing or not a good thing.
It's true. It's true.
But you crushed it. So it was a great thing for you.
Right, exactly.
Thank you. Yeah, so we started the company in 2019. Just started to get it going then. And since when COVID happened, nobody's going to the bars. So we're like, nobody needs this product right now. Let's just apply for Shark Tank. Literally filmed like August of 2020, which was like within a year of thinking of the idea. So we filmed that, and then it aired 6 months later in 2021 of February. And it was like the coolest thing ever. Like, we got a deal with Lori. Obviously, she is 25%. But when we went into the tank, we only had $68,000 in sales. So like 40,000 of those were from like a TikTok video that I made. So you can go on there and it won't even air. So, like, you know, going through the whole process smoothly, pitching, getting a deal, airing, and just like best case scenario, literally that's what it was. That to me showed me that, like, wow, you could, like, if I'm standing here, like, you could literally do anything. Like, that is the impossible. You know what I mean? Like, Shark Tank's like the American dream. And if I'm watching that on my TV when I'm 8 and I can be on it, 10 years later, like, nothing's stopping me from doing anything. So yeah, I think Shark Tank was one of those. I mean, I processed that for years after. And I think too, like, just staying focused on your mission will get you to all these different pivotal moments. Like,
Okay, that conversation was literally one of my favorites, probably on the podcast to date. It was so powerful, and I feel like we got so many good tips from that.
Absolutely. Now, that one was good, but this one is really, really amazing too. It's really been hard for us to kind of sift out which ones are our favorite, but this one definitely tops the list.
Sarah revolutionized the beauty industry by creating the first beauty website. She founded and was the CEO of another global skincare brand, Skin Iceland, and is now working on her third business, All Golden.
But people were just starting to talk about this thing called the internet and talking about how people were going to start doing commerce on the internet, like banking. And being in beauty, I thought, well, you know, if people actually end up buying beauty on the internet, that would level the playing field so that people in Columbus, Ohio could buy the same products that people in New York or LA could buy. And that would be a really interesting dynamic in the industry. So I spent every night after work writing a business plan, which I learned to do business school, which is why I went. And after a couple of months, had this business plan. I tried to get this idea of like a beauty website slash TV show off the ground, but I was a little too early. And so I ended up moving to San Francisco and taking a job with Banana Republic. I was running their fragrance business. And I was there for 3 years while my business plan sat in a drawer. And then the whole internet boom happened in Silicon Valley in 1999. And long story short, I ended up through a friend meeting with some investors. I raised $5 million in one day and I quit my job. And I started my first company, which was called gloss.com. And we were the first beauty website. We sold 125 beauty brands and we were an online magazine. And I grew that company to 100 employees and I sold it a year later to Estee Lauder. And so it was sort of accidental and we sort of rode the wave of the internet boom. But once the bubble burst, I sort of sat out that time period at Estee Lauder and went back into the corporate world. But that only lasted for a short period of time. And then I got the bug again to start another company.
Wow, I love hearing your journey kind of unfold of all the twists and turns that you've gone through and experienced. And you gave us a little sneak peek, but
Oh,
talk us
yeah.
through kind of the next junction point of going through that transition. So having your second business baby get acquired and moving into your third, walk us through kind of that journey and what
Yeah.
that was like.
So when I stepped away from Skin Iceland was my second business, which was solutions for stressed skin using pure and potent ingredients from Iceland. So when I stepped away from that business in 2000, it was right at the beginning of COVID. And yeah, I was fortunate enough that the company was acquired by a big French company in 2022. Sort of the public perception is that when your company gets acquired, like everybody becomes a billionaire and it's like a great thing, but it's not always the story. So I really, really sort of had to figure out, like I said, what my next step was going to be. So I spent some time consulting and really working with other founders and other companies. And it was a great way to kind of get back into the category. And it was during these 2 years that I felt very passionate about women over 45 and the beauty experience. I thought that women, 45, 50 were really being counted out in the beauty category, as the customer in that space. I was feeling like my needs were changing. My skin was different. My hair, I was starting to go gray. I was looking for solutions I couldn't really find at the beauty counter. I would go, and even if I was looking for like a skincare product that, was going to address my aging concerns, there were pictures of 20-year-old models, and the products for me were just like all about like sags and bags and wrinkles. And, I felt like the conversation around this age group was very negative, less than, counted out, not current, not sexy, not beautiful. And I felt like was feeling really good about myself. Like I was like hitting my stride and I felt really engaged and like I had great experience and I was a mom. And yet I did not feel like marketers were talking to me that way. And so I felt like there was room for a brand there that was really mission driven, that would cultivate and build a community of like-minded women who all wanted to connect, not about like retiring or their menopause. I felt like there were all these really important conversations to be had, and also a consumer segment that was just like not being addressed properly or the way they wanted to be spoken to, and not being served up products that they needed either. And so that's really how I came up with the idea for my third company, which is called All Golden, and it's skincare and hair care for women over 45. I really want to scale this company to be big. I'm not doing this to have like a little brand. I want to have a big beauty company that reaches a lot of people and really creates change in the way women feel about themselves, the way in which the society perceives women. And so that feels really important to me.
Manlo, it's so fun to look back at all of these episodes and all these conversations that we've been able to have on the podcast so far. And I mean, it's really cool to also be able to give a platform to women that are doing really cool things in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the relationships we've been able to build, the people we've been able to meet, and just the conversations. I mean, so much information, so much wisdom. And I feel like truly we've been able to pull back the curtain, which was our goal, to really show people what it's really like being an entrepreneur and all of kind of the things that go into it that you might not see from the outside.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot, as you can tell. And hopefully that you've been able to learn something from all of these women. And don't be afraid, because we have so many more incredible conversations coming this year. And really, we're going to hope to highlight even more incredible women that are doing amazing things this Women's History Month. But, you know, over here at Forward Female, it's not just Women's History Month. We celebrate women all year long.
All year, baby.
So hope that you have a great rest of your day wherever you are in the world. We love you deeply. We're rooting you on. We're cheering you on.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.